Have you ever heard of doom spending? The anxiety habit quietly draining your bank account, and wondered if that late-night checkout cart is actually you? That question is the whole video. Stay with me, and you'll never see the cart the same way again. Here's the strange part. You weren't shopping. Not really. 10 minutes earlier, you were reading something grim. A headline, a number, a stranger's opinion about a future you can't control. Your chest tightened, and somewhere in that tightness, your thumb drifted to a store. Not because you needed anything, because buying felt like doing something, anything. The cart filled quietly, item by item, while the anxiety looked for a door to walk out of. This is doom spending. It isn't greed. It isn't stupidity. It's a nervous system trying to soothe itself with a checkout button. And the more uncertain the world feels, the louder that button calls. Most people who do it don't even see it happening. They just wake up to a confirmation they half remember. Over the next few minutes, I want to show you where this reflex comes from and why it's older than your phone, older than the internet, older than you'd ever guess. And once you know its name, you get a strange kind of power over it. It usually happens at night. The day is over, the house is quiet, and your defenses are down. You're tired, and tired is when the reflex is strongest because your mind has run out of energy to argue with itself. You tell yourself it's a treat, a small reward. You've earned it. And that's partly true. But notice the timing. It rarely arrives on a calm, ordinary afternoon. It arrives after the bad news, after the tense call, after the scroll that left a knot behind your ribs. The purchase is small enough to feel harmless. A candle, a gadget, a second shirt, in a color you already own. None of it matters on its own. That's exactly why it's so easy to miss. The damage isn't in any single order. It's in the pattern. The quiet repetition that no one-line item will ever confess to. And the pattern hides in plain sight, one small yes at a time. Look closely and you'll notice it almost always follows a feeling, never a plan. By the end of the month, the numbers don't add up the way you expected, not because of one reckless splurge, because of 30 small ones you barely registered. Ask most people where their money went, and they'll shrug. It didn't feel like spending. It felt like coping. That's the tax nobody warns you about. The anxiety tax, paid in tiny installments, collected while you weren't looking. A survey by Intuit Credit Karma in late 2023 found that more than a quarter of Americans admit to doing exactly this. Spending to cope with stress about the economy and the world. Among younger adults, it was far higher, and 40% said they were doing it more than the year before. Read that again. The uncertainty didn't calm the spending, it fed it. The worse things felt, the more the cart filled, which raises the real question, the one that actually matters. Why would a brain under threat reach for a purchase instead of protection? Why does fear make us buy? That number, more than a quarter, is not a fringe. It's a whole culture, quietly coping. To understand it, you have to leave the store completely. Go back further, to the oldest part of your brain, the part that kept your ancestors alive. It doesn't understand headlines or accounts. It only understands one question, asked constantly: am I safe right now? When the answer feels like no, it floods you with alarm and demands action. Do something, move, fix it. But here's the trap of modern life. The threat is abstract. A distant war, a market word, a forecast for a year that hasn't happened. There's nothing to fight and nowhere to run. So the alarm keeps ringing with no exit. And a purchase becomes the smallest possible action that says, look, I did something. I'm still in control. Psychologists call it a false sense of agency, a quick, cheap illusion of control in a moment that offers none. The click doesn't fix the fear. It just interrupts it. For a few seconds, then the alarm returns, a little louder, asking the same question again. That's the loop. Alarm, click, silence, alarm. It runs all night if you let it. There's a second layer, and it's chemical. The pleasure of buying isn't really in the thing you buy. It's in the anticipation, the moment between wanting and having. Your brain releases a small surge of dopamine when it expects a reward, not when it arrives. That's why the box, once it comes, feels strangely flat. You already spent the good feeling at checkout. The object was never the point. The relief was. And relief, unlike joy, has to be repeated. Because it doesn't heal the anxiety underneath. It just paints over it thinly until the next crack shows. This is what makes doom spending so quietly persistent. It's not a shopping problem. It's a soothing problem wearing a shopping costume. And any soothing habit that works for a few seconds and fails for the rest of the month will keep asking to be used again. Once you see that gap between the surge you feel and the emptiness that follows, you can't quite unsee it. And that gap is very, very old. Your brain isn't broken. It's just chasing a chemical that was never meant to last. Here's what almost nobody connects to their late-night cart. This reflex didn't arrive with the internet. In the autumn of 1940, London was being bombed nearly every night. The Blitz, whole streets gone by morning. And in the middle of that terror, something odd showed up in the shops. People kept buying small luxuries, lipstick, perfume, sweets, a new hat, in a city that might not survive the night. It wasn't denial, and it wasn't foolishness. Britain's own government leaned into it, treating a groomed, cared-for appearance as a morale booster, something worth protecting even under fire. Cosmetics makers ran with the idea. Good looks and morale, one famous line insisted, go hand in hand. Under falling bombs, buying a small, beautiful thing was a way of saying what the fear couldn't. There is still a tomorrow, and it's worth showing up for. The same reflex, 80 years before your phone. Same nervous system, a different threat. People have always reached for beauty when the ground felt least certain beneath them. Sit with that for a moment. A woman buying lipstick during an air raid and you buying something at 2 a.m. after a frightening headline are running the exact same program. Comfort in the face of a future you can't control. That's the humbling part. This isn't a flaw in you, it's a feature of being human. A survival instinct doing precisely what it evolved to do. But notice the difference in the stakes. She was under literal bombs, reaching for one small point of light. You're usually under a bombardment of a different kind. Notifications, forecasts, 10 strangers' anxieties poured into your hand every hour. Your nervous system can't tell the difference between a real siren and a red badge on an app. It treats them the same. Threat is threat. So it reaches for the same old comfort over and over all day long. Not once a night during a war, but any time the scroll turns dark. The instinct is ancient. The trigger is now infinite. And infinite triggers demand an infinite bill. Paid in small change you never miss. Now here's where it turns, quietly, against you. That instinct cost a woman in 1940 the price of a lipstick. It costs you far more. Not because the items are pricey, but because the trigger never stops. A war ends. Your feed doesn't. There's always another headline, another bad day, another midnight, and each little purchase does something you don't feel in the moment. It borrows calm from your future and charges it to your present. The real loss isn't the money. It's what the money was quietly meant to become. Every soothing click is a small decision made for you by fear, without your say. And decisions made by fear are almost never the ones you'd choose in daylight. The cost isn't a number on a screen, it's the slow narrowing of your options, the room to breathe, to wait, to choose. Traded away a few dollars at a time for a feeling that was gone before the package ever arrived. That is the quiet arithmetic of anxiety. Small comfort now, smaller freedom later. Now watch how a different kind of mind handles the same 2 a.m. moment. The anxiety still comes. That part doesn't disappear for anyone. But instead of reaching for the button, they've learned to name the feeling first. This isn't a want, this is a wave. And waves pass. They think in time, not in seconds. They know the urge to buy tonight will look absurd by Thursday, so they let the clock decide instead of the fear. They've built the pause into their life on purpose, so it doesn't depend on willpower they may not have at midnight. It's not that they feel less anxiety, it's that they've stopped letting anxiety hold the wallet. The difference between the two people was never income. It was never discipline in some grand, heroic sense. It was one small skill, practiced until it became automatic. The ability to feel the wave and not act on it, to let the storm pass through without buying anything to survive it. The wave is loud. The person who waits it out is quiet. Quiet usually wins. And this is the truth that's uncomfortable to hear. Your account doesn't reflect how much you earn. It reflects who you become when you're afraid. Two people can make the exact same amount and end the year in completely different places. Not because one found some secret, but because one soothed every fear with a purchase and the other learned to sit still. The reflex we've been describing doesn't care about your salary. A bigger income just gives an unexamined habit a bigger playground. That's why people who suddenly earn more so often feel no steadier. The fear scaled up right alongside the paycheck, and so did the spending. Nothing underneath had changed. The habit was still driving. So the number that really shapes your life isn't what lands in your account. It's what you do in the 90 seconds after the world scares you. That's the invisible decision. You make it dozens of times a week, and you almost never notice you're making it at all. Income is what you make. Character is what you keep. Only one of them compounds. Here's the part that should actually give you relief. If the problem is a repeated reflex, then the answer is a repeated choice. And repetition is something you can practice. You don't have to defeat your anxiety. You'll never win that fight, and you don't need to. You only have to catch the reflex once, in the small window between the feeling and the click. Just once. Then again, the next night. Each time you feel the wave and don't reach for the cart, the pattern loosens a little. The old path gets fainter. A new one gets worn in. This is how every steady habit is built. Not by a single dramatic act of willpower, but by thousands of small, unglamorous refusals that no one ever sees. Nobody claps for the purchase you didn't make. There's no receipt for restraint, but that invisible non-event, repeated quietly, is where a calmer relationship with money is actually born. Not in a decision, in a direction. Direction beats intensity. A calm night, repeated, outlasts any dramatic vow you'll ever make. So here's the one thing that changes it. And it isn't a budget. It's a pause with a question inside it. The next time you feel that pull toward the cart, there's a single question that quietly breaks the spell. Am I buying this thing Or am I buying a feeling? That's it. Naming the feeling clearly in your own mind does something strange to it. The urge, once seen for what it is, loses most of its grip, because the oldest part of the brain runs on the dark and attention is light. You're not forbidding the purchase. You're just refusing to make it on autopilot, at the mercy of a headline you'll forget by morning. Buy it tomorrow, in daylight, if you still want it. You almost never will, because the thing you actually wanted was never in the cart. It was calm, and calm was never for sale. The click never buys the calm it promises. It only rents it, by the second, at a terrible rate. One pause, one night, then the next. That is the entire practice, and it's enough. So the next time you wonder if that late-night cart is really you, it isn't. It's an old alarm, reaching for an old comfort, in a world that never stops ringing it. The cart was never the problem. The fear was just looking for a door. Now you know the door it keeps trying. And knowing that, you get to decide whether to open it, long before your thumb ever moves. The bombs stopped falling on London a lifetime ago. The reflex they revealed is still here, glowing in your hand at 1 a.m. Only now, you can see it for what it is, a wave, not a want, and waves, if you let them, always pass. That cart at midnight isn't you. It never was. The alarm will ring again tomorrow. That's fine. You just don't have to answer it with your wallet.